If someone had told you in the 1970s that China, once a poor and struggling nation, would become the world's second largest economy, you probably would have laughed in disbelief, yet here we are. In 1980, China accounted for just 2% of global GDP. Today, that number has risen to over 18%. The question is, how did China achieve this rapid transformation? And will it continue, or are there challenges that could threaten its future? In the 1960s and 70s, China was struggling. Long lines for food, outdated factories, and a stagnant economy defined everyday life. One major reason was poor economic policies. Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward was meant to industrialize China quickly, but instead it led to a devastating famine that caused the deaths of tens of millions. By 1978, China's GDP per capita was less than $200, while in the US, it was over $12,000. China needed change, and that change came with Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping realized that China had to change its approach. He looked at the West, where free markets and capitalism had fueled economic growth. By launching the open door policy, Deng welcomed foreign investments. Special economic zones, or SEZs, like Shenzhen were created, offering attractive business conditions. Within a few years, these zones became major hubs of production and trade. In 1980, China's total exports were just $9 billion. By 2020, they had surpassed $2.5 trillion, a staggering increase that turned China into the world's leading exporter. The 1990s were a turning point. While Western countries struggled with high production costs, China offered something irresistible: cheap labor, vast land, and business-friendly policies. One by one, global brands moved their production to China. For example, producing a pair of shoes in the US cost around $20, but in China it was less than $5. Companies like Nike, Adidas, and Apple quickly relocated their factories to take advantage of these low costs. In 2000, China accounted for just 3% of global exports. By 2021, this number had grown to over 15%. China had officially become the world's factory. For years, Chinese companies were known for copying Western brands. Smartphones, laptops, and even cars often resembled Western designs. But China was not content with just being a copycat. Massive investments in research and development changed everything. Companies like Huawei and Xiaomi became global leaders in mobile technology. Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent dominated the internet sector. And in the electric vehicle market, China now produces over 60% of the world's EVs, surpassing the US. However, such rapid progress also brought new challenges. China's growth has been impressive, but serious challenges threaten its future. Debt crisis. China has invested billions in infrastructure and industrial projects, but much of this has been financed through debt. Rising debt levels could put pressure on its economy in the long run. Slowing growth. China's economy, which once grew by over 10% annually, has now slowed to around 5%. Factors such as the US-China trade war, the real estate crisis, and declining global demand are contributing to this slowdown. Aging population birth rates in China have plummeted. By 2050, over 30% of China's population will be over 60 years old, leading to a shrinking workforce and rising retirement costs. China's rise has made the US uneasy. For decades, America was the world's uncontested economic superpower, but now China is catching up fast. This has led to increasing economic tensions between the two nations. In 2018, the US imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese goods. Companies like Huawei were blacklisted, and exports of advanced technology, such as semiconductor chips, were restricted. But can these measures really stop China's rise? Over the past 40 years, China has transformed itself from a struggling, isolated nation into the world's second-largest economy. It has surpassed the West in several industries, but now faces major challenges, from rising debt to slowing growth and intense competition with the US. The big question remains: can China surpass the US to become the world's leading economy? Or will its rapid rise come to a halt? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments.